let's do a quick recap of what we have studied so far before we continue. We studied reproduction in unicellular organisms, unisexual and bisexual organisms, invertebrates and unisexual vertebrates. We are now well versed with the process of reproduction and the purpose of reproduction. The purpose of reproduction is for perpetuation of species and continuation of generations. Great! Let us discuss in detail about ourselves, that is, human beings. The knowledge of human reproductive system, fertilization and childbirth are very important and has almost become a necessity in these modern days. Why is it so necessary for us to understand our reproductive system? It is because this knowledge creates an awareness of various population control methods, which is of great concern in the present day world. In addition to this, it also helps in preventing AIDS and many other sexually transmitted diseases.
Okay, before we actually start, let us identify the position and characters of human beings in the hierarchy of animal kingdom.
Human beings are highly evolved organisms on earth in the animal hierarchy. Like dogs, cows, tigers and other mammals, human beings also possess mammary glands, the glands that produce milk to feed young ones. Hence, they belong to Mammalia, the highest class in vertebrates. Man is unisexual, that is, sexes are separate as man and woman. Except few, all the mammals bear the embryo, that is, baby in the womb of mother. Mother supplies food to the fetus through placenta. Now, we have identified the position of man in the hierarchy of animal kingdom. Let us start with male reproductive system. Male reproductive system primarily consists of the testes, which are 2 in number. Testes are the major male reproductive organs. Apart from these, there are other accessory reproductive parts like accessory glands, a duct system and a copulatory organ, the penis. We shall now discuss about each organ in detail. Let us start with testes, the primary reproductive organ of males. Where is the position of testes in man? Look at the structure of testes, about which we will discuss in a while. As I said before, testes are 2 in number and present outside the body. As we can see in the figure, testes are suspended in a sac-like structure made of skin. These are called scrotal sacs. Scrotal sacs are present outside the body. You may wonder, why are the testes placed outside the body in the scrotal sacs? It is because the testes produce sperms at a temperature less than 2 degrees centigrade of the body temperature, and hence they are placed outside the body. If the testes are present inside the body, sperms cannot be produced. Let us now look at the structure of testes. Friends, look at the structure of testes carefully. Each testis externally is covered by a layer of connective tissue called tunica albuginea. Internally, there are a number of tubules known as seminiferous tubules. Sperms, the haploid male gametes, are produced from the tubule. The epithelial lining of these tubules is called germinal epithelium. Testes show specialized cells called Leydig cells, which are polyhedral in shape. These cells secrete male hormone called testosterone. Look at Sertoli cells in testes. These provide nourishment to sperms. So far, we have seen the internal structure of testes. Now, we will see the external structure of the testes along with the ductal system of the male reproductive system. Testes show number of tubules arising from seminiferous tubules, and these unite to form straight tubules. These tubules open into cavities present in the posterior part of testes. From testes arise tubes called vasa efferentia, which open into spherical structure called epididyme. Epididymis now opens into vas deferens, which is a partially coiled tube, also called as the sperm tube. Vas deferens now enters the abdomen. It then passes over the urinary bladder, receives duct from seminal vesicles to form common ejaculatory duct. Ejaculatory duct passes through prostrate gland, then into urethra, which arises from the urinary bladder. Urethra opens out through the penis. All these ducts constitute the ductal system of the male reproductive system.
Apart from the ductal system, there are also other accessory glands which open into various ductal systems at various places. These glands show varied functions in formation of sperms. These accessory glands include prostate glands, seminal vesicles, and Cowper's glands.
These are the accessory glands of the male reproductive system, starting with the prostate gland. These are white patch-like glands opening into urethra along with ejaculatory ducts. Then, seminal vesicles are paired leaf-like lobulated structures which open into vas deferens to be called as ejaculatory duct. Now, the Cowper's glands, which also opens into urethra. The secretion of these glands is called semen, which is mixed with spermatozoa in the duct system, which nourishes the sperms, keeps sperms alive, and also acts as a fluid medium for sperm movement in the ducts. Right. Till now, we have studied the detailed structure of reproductive system in males, and now we will study about the actual purpose of reproductive system. Yes, the production of sperms or the male gametes. Sperms or spermatozoa are the haploid male gametes resulting due to large numbers of mitotic divisions and one meiotic division of the germinal epithelial cells lining the seminiferous tubules. The movement of the spermatozoa from the seminiferous tubules to the penis, the copulatory organ, is described through the following chart, which also includes the corresponding functions of each accessory gland for better understanding. The germinal epithelial cells living in the seminiferous tubules undergo many mitotic divisions and one meiotic division to produce spermatids. These are haploid cells which pass through straight tubes into the vasa efferentia and then into the epididymis. In the epididymis, the sperms are stored temporarily and the maturation of spermatids to spermatozoa takes place, which moves further into vas deferens and then to seminal vesicles. The secretion of these glands help in smooth transport of sperms. Seminal vesicles then enter into the urethra, which opens into the Cowper's glands. The secretion of these glands acts as lubricant. The urethra then further opens into the prostate gland. These secretions are alkaline. Prostate duct along with urethra forms ejaculatory duct to open into penis. Finally, the urethra opens into the urinary bladder. We can see from the flow chart that the urethra with spermatozoa and the urinary bladder with the urine open through common opening into the penis. Do you think both semen and urine are expelled out at the same time? No, they are not expelled at the same time. Semen is expelled only at the time of sexual stimulation, while urination does not need any special stimulation except urinary bladder filling. Okay friends, let us now study the structure of sperm. Human sperm is a minute, microscopic and motile structure. Each sperm has three parts: the head, the middle part and the tail or end piece. Let us look at these in animation. This is a human sperm with three parts: the head, the middle piece and the end piece or tail. A haploid nucleus is present in the head. Look at the tip of the head of the sperm. You can see a cap-like structure. It is called the acrosome, which is formed from Golgi complex, and it helps the sperm in penetration of egg during fertilization by secreting enzymes. The middle piece has several mitochondria which give energy to the sperm for its movements. The tail has long flagella which help the sperm to swim towards the egg. Sperm production in a male begins when a person attains puberty. What is puberty? When does it start? Puberty is that state of life when the testosterone hormone production increases at a certain age of growth. Production of sperms is stimulated by testosterone. Also, hormones of pituitary gland like follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone aid in sperm production. It usually starts between the age of 13 to 17 years in boys. The increased production of sex hormones not only begins the formation of sperms but also brings about development of secondary sexual characters like hair growth on face, armpits, pubic region and other parts of the body, change in voice, broadening of shoulders, etc. Puberty in female is marked with the beginning of production of estrogen between the age of 11 and 16 years. The egg or ova in female begins even before birth. However, this ovum is not mature and is in the stage of primary oocyte. Maturation of ovum begins only after the girl attains puberty. Females also show development of secondary sexual characters and physiological changes during puberty. These include hair growth in armpits, development of breasts and mammary glands, and high-pitched voice. Friends, till now we have studied the male reproductive system of man and the development of secondary sexual characters during puberty in both males and females. We shall now examine the female reproductive system in human beings. Female reproductive system in human beings. Let us first see the various parts of the female reproductive system. The female reproductive system has the following parts: ovaries, oviduct or fallopian tube, uterus, vagina, accessory glands and mammary glands. Let us start with ovaries then. Ovaries are the paired primary reproductive organs of females, just as testes are to the males. But unlike testes, ovaries are inside the abdomen, fixed to the dorsal abdominal wall by mesenteries. This mesentery is called mesovarium. Ovary is also attached to the pelvis by a ligament. Let us now study the internal structure of ovaries in its transverse section. Watch this. What you are observing is the transverse section of ovary. Ovary has many sac-like structures called ovarian follicles or Graafian follicles. These follicles show ovum at various stages of development, starting with the production of egg to release of the mature egg from the follicle as follows. The ovum is produced from the peripheral layers of the ovary. Only one egg matures in an ovary at a time. The mature egg in a follicle filled with liquid is called Graafian follicle. Later, this matured egg is released from the follicle into the body cavity. This ruptured follicle is called corpus luteum, which means corpus, which means dead or remnant, and luteum, which means yellow. Hence, you can see a yellow colored mass. This corpus luteum secretes female sex hormones estrogen and progesterone. The unique feature of females is that the production of ova begins in a female even before birth. During this stage, it is yet to mature. This is called primary oocyte stage. Maturation of oocyte takes place during the onset of puberty, and as we have said before, only one egg matures at a time in every month. This monthly cycle of events is called the menstrual cycle, about which we will discuss in just a bit in this chapter. Ovary continues into the oviduct or fallopian tube, which acts as a link between ovary and uterus. Take a look. This is the oviduct which we are talking about. Oviduct moves close to ovary during ovulation. Then, moving further, oviduct opens into uterus and a pear-shaped organ is located in the pelvic cavity. Uterus has three parts: fundus, cervix and vagina. Uterus bears the baby. Vaginal part of the uterus receives sperms during copulation. Vagina then opens out through vulva, which is the female genital organ. Vulva is the equivalent of scrotum in males. Vulva has an erective tissue called clitoris, which is the equivalent of penis in males. This is the female genital organ in human beings. There are also various hormones secreted by different parts of the female reproductive system and the pituitary gland, which aids at various levels of the maturation of ovum and at different events of the reproductive cycle. As discussed previously, the female hormones estrogen and progesterone are secreted by the corpus luteum and influence the uterine wall thickness and prepare the uterus to receive the embryo. The pituitary gland secretes follicle stimulating hormone, which stimulates the growth of follicle, and the luteinizing hormone is also secreted by pituitary, which stimulates the rupture of follicle and conversion of follicle into corpus luteum. When we study female reproductive system, we must also have knowledge of the cycle between the release of one egg and the next one. The cycle involves the maturation of follicles, release of ovum, the growth of tissues, implantation and expulsion of unfertilized egg. Thus, entire cycle is termed as menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle is the duration between the formation of a new follicle to the expulsion of the unfertilized egg in a female. It is divided into 4 phases: proliferative, ovulatory, secretory and menstrual. We know that the ovary has a number of follicles. The menstrual cycle begins with the expulsion of an unfertilized egg. This is called menstruation. Due to menstruation, corpus luteum degenerates and new follicles begin to develop. Menstruation is generally of a 4-day period. This phase is hence known as menstrual phase. From the 5th to 13th day, it is the proliferative phase in which the uterus lining degenerates and the follicle begins to develop. The follicle matures. Estrogen secreted from the follicle influences the uterine wall to thicken and receive the embryo. The uterus lining thickens further only if fertilization occurs. On the 14th day of the cycle, which is termed as ovulatory phase, the ovum or egg is released from the follicle. The duration of this phase is 1 day. If the egg is fertilized on this day, the uterus lining receives the developing egg and the menstrual cycle stops for the entire period of pregnancy. Between the 15th to 28th day is termed secretory phase. The follicle which is ruptured due to release of egg is converted to corpus luteum. The corpus luteum and uterine walls thicken in expectation of a fertilized egg. If there is no fertilization, the cells of corpus luteum and the wall of the uterus are detached and expelled along with some amount of blood. Immediately after this, the proliferative phase begins. The menstrual cycle is under the influence of hormones secreted by pituitary gland and ovaries. The pituitary gland secretes follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone and prolactin, while the ovaries secrete estrogen and progesterone. The menstrual cycle begins at an age when a female attains puberty. The onset of menstruation, which generally takes place between the ages of 13 to 15 years, is termed as menarche. At the age of 45 to 50 years, ovaries in a woman do not produce any more eggs, and low levels of estrogen and progesterone cause certain physical and mental changes. This phase is termed as menopause. Menstruation completely ceases at menopause. Fertilization. Friends, so far we discussed the reproductive organs of male and female human beings in detail. Now we shall learn about the process of fertilization. By now we are well versed with the term fertilization. Let us recall the definition of fertilization. Fertilization is the process of union of the male haploid gamete, that is sperm, with the female haploid gamete, that is egg or ova, which results in the formation of the diploid zygote. Fertilization in human beings is of internal type, that is, the sperm unites with the ovum in the female body, resulting in the production of young ones. In a female, fertilization occurs only during the 14th day or between 14th to 16th day of the menstrual cycle. During copulation, the male releases sperms into the vagina. These sperms, with the help of their tail, swim and reach the ovum in the fallopian tube. Millions of sperm surround the egg. All the sperms release the sperm lysins, but only one sperm can enter the egg. Sperm lysins are enzymes released by the acrosome of the sperm head. These enzymes break the cell clusters around the ovum. Here, it should be noted that the complete sperm does not enter the egg. Only the head region of the sperm enters. This head with the haploid nucleus triggers several reactions, such as the sperm nucleus secreting many layers around the ova, which prevents other sperms from penetrating, thus avoiding double fertilization. Now, fertilization is brought about by the union of the nucleus and also making up of chromosome of both paternal, that is sperm, and maternal, that is ova chromosomes, resulting in the formation of the diploid zygote. Further, the zygote travels into the uterus where further development of the embryo takes place. Meanwhile, the corpus luteum, which is the remaining follicle after release of ovum in the ovary, as we know, secretes the hormones in its active stage, now becomes activated and produces progesterone, the hormone which prepares the uterus to receive the fertilized zygote. Observe the uterus thickness in this image. The progesterone secreted by corpus luteum prepares the uterus to form a cushion-like structure to receive the zygote. Now, we shall discuss the fate of zygote from the site of fertilization, that is the fallopian tube, till its implantation into uterus. On the 7th day after fertilization, the zygote starts dividing several times by mitosis and forms a ball of cells. This ball of cells is called blastocyst, and cells of blastocyst are called blastomeres, with a central cavity in it called blastocele. Now this blastocyst sinks into the wall of uterus. The sinking of the ball of cells into uterine wall is called as implantation. From this stage, the development of embryo takes place in the uterus. Now, the blastocyst grows in the uterine wall. As the embryo increases in size, the uterine will push out, leading to an increase in the size of the uterus. The outer layer of the cells of embryo is known as trophoblast. It develops into two embryonic membranes known as chorion and amnion. Chorion is the outermost membrane. The chorion establishes contact with the inner wall of the uterus by villi to review nutrients for the embryo and to remove the waste from the embryo. Take a look at this image for better understanding. Friends, look at the finger-like projections called the villi established between the uterine wall of the mother and the chorionic layer of embryo. The second membrane, amnion, forms a sac-like structure around the embryo. The space between the amnion and embryo is filled with fluid called as amniotic fluid. The amniotic fluid protects the developing embryo against mechanical shocks and remains till the birth of the baby, and it grows along with the growth of embryo. These chorion and amnion are considered as extra embryonic layers as they are present outside the embryo as layers. While the cells of the embryo differentiate into three layers, outer ectoderm, inner endoderm and middle mesoderm, these layers in later stages differentiate into various organs. Most of the organs are formed by 12th week of pregnancy. Though sex is determined at the time of fertilization, the embryo develops external features by 6th week of pregnancy. Let us now see how villi form between chorion and uterus and provide nourishment to the developing baby. It is through a tissue formed between cells of embryo and mother. This tissue is called placenta. The unique feature of mammals is development of a placenta. Placenta is formed around the 12th week of pregnancy. The villi formed earlier form part of the placenta. It contains blood vessels of the mother and embryo. The embryo establishes contact with the uterus through the placenta by a cord known as umbilical cord. The embryo receives oxygen and nutrients through blood vessels present in placenta. At this stage, the embryo is called fetus. Now, we shall see briefly the functions of placenta. It acts as nutritive organ to feed the fetus. It acts as a digestive organ by digesting complex proteins and then pass them on to the fetus. It acts as a respirator organ by exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide. It acts as an excretory organ by removing the waste products from the fetus. It acts as an endocrine organ as it secretes estrogen and progesterone. It stores glycogen and supplies glucose to the fetus. It filters unwanted material and germs from reaching the fetus. The fetus develops into a well-developed baby and takes birth after 9 months of pregnancy. Mother care. The health of a baby depends on the health of the mother during pregnancy. This is because the nutrient supply to the growing fetus is provided by mother through placenta. Hence, during pregnancy, a mother should maintain good health. Good health is maintained by taking a nutritious diet. It includes milk, eggs and meat that contain proteins because proteins provide body-building materials for the fetus. Green vegetables that contain vitamins and are rich in minerals are to be consumed. Iron and calcium-rich tablets are also to be taken, as these help in the formation of blood. Mother should undergo regular checkup during pregnancy and should be mentally at peace without worries. Childbirth. What is childbirth? The period from fertilization to parturition is called gestation period. Parturition is the term used for childbirth in mammals. As they give birth to young ones, they are called viviparous. In human beings, the gestation period is 9 months, 10 days or 280 days. The childbirth is facilitated by the contraction of uterine wall leading to labor pains. Children can a woman produce in her lifetime? What would be the ideal number? What is a small family norm? During the lifetime of a woman, she can give birth to 20 to 30 children. The optimum number of children in present day scenario is 2 to 3. An increase in the number of children affects mother's health, children's health due to reduced child care, abnormalities in children may occur, disease resistance in mother and child may reduce, financial problems, economy of the country could have an adverse effect due to less availability of food, clothing and shelter, and overcrowding of the habitat can upset the environmental balance. How can we control the population explosion? There are several methods. To terminate pregnancy by abortion, which is not entirely safe for mother, prevention of pregnancy is the best method. This can be done by using contraceptive methods. The methods used by female are use of pills to prevent ovulation, use of spermicidal drugs to kill sperms, and use of intrauterine devices like loop, which prevents the sperm from reaching the egg. The family planning methods adopted by males are use of condoms, which prevent release of sperms into vagina, use of drugs that prevent formation of spermatozoa. There are also surgical methods like vasectomy in male, in which the vas deferens is blocked, and tubectomy in female, where the fallopian tubes are blocked. Recent advances include nasal sprays and vaccines that prevent ovulation in female. Age at marriage. It is to be noted that the age of marriage as per Child Marriage Restraint Act of 1978 is 21 years for males and 18 years for females. A girl of less than 18 years of age is not physically mature to become pregnant. Marriage at a lower age for girls implies a greater risk for the girl and the child and hence should be avoided. Consanguineous marriages. It is the marriage between man and woman who are related through blood, for example among cousins, etc. In such marriages, there is a possibility of a defective gene being present in both the parents, and both defective genes may combine and result in the offspring suffering from a congenital malformation or a metabolic disorder. Thus, the occurrence of an affected offspring is greater in related spouses than in non-related parents. The closer the relationship, the greater is the risk. Therefore, such marriages should be avoided. That's it for me for now, children. Remember, all that we have learned today is very useful information, and learning this will help you. Bye then. Let's meet again another day.